Yeah. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes, and some would say that it's already gone down. The Denver Nuggets extending their season another game. Philadelphia trying to do the same. We got NFL draft reaction. All the picks are in the books. I got with me the one and only world-renowned, world-famous, cool, calm, and collected. He goes by the name of Mr. Logical. I'm your unorthodox statistician, 2-5, reporting live from the Alamo. And you know what that means? The sounds of sports reports as ordered are in your ear. So do me a favor out there, y'all. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Strawberry Terror if you can. And we going to get right to it. And of course, wherever you get your podcast. Mr. Logical.
Yep.
The NFL draft has come and gone.
Yeah, but these allergies are here to stay. Jesus Christ. Let me stop. I'm about to get some eye drops at some point.
No, I can definitely relate. I get them weekly shots and everything. But what are your takeaways? Like, is there anything that stood out to you? Anything you were happy about? Anything that you were just kind of like, why did that happen?
I think the first round is where you get your ultimate level of excitement because I think that's the depth of the conversation leading up to the draft. We talked about other sports, how they don't really have that same kind of buzz. I think we follow high school basketball players until they're about to get to college. And then there's so many college basketball teams. If they don't end up on Duke, Kansas, or like in the Bonsa's position, leading the nation of scoring on BYU, we kind of like fade. Like DeJuan Wagner is still in college, but he was like a huge buzz in high school. Whereas football players, we watched them on Elite 11 with Trent Dilfer. Tua was on that. Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud was on that. So we watch high school players transition on to college because normally the guys that are on TV go to the colleges that are on TV all the time. And then the first round kind of encapsulates all of the buzz that we've kind of had from the latter part of the season through the playoffs to the draft. Because all these GMs, they make it seem as if they're doing like this high level, high skill analytic research. They're not. They're taking the last 4 to 6 teams in the playoffs, and they're picking the best players off of those teams. Indiana had like 6 guys on their team, and I believe all of them were two-star recruits or below coming out of high school. We'll call it 48 months ago for someone, maybe about 60 months ago. So all these guys was 2 or 0-star recruits, and all of a sudden now all of them are just kind of fluttered
and a bunch of them came from James Madison too,
where they were 0-star. So they ended up at James Madison. So it was like you could play. So that's why when I think about the draft and how people responding to guys like Ruben Bain going, I believe 13. He went 13.
He went 15.
Or Caleb Downs going to Dallas. People like, I can't believe he slipped. It was like I said last week. When you're drafting in the top 10, you got to just go with whatever the physical numbers and the film says. So you got to rely on this guy's 6'5", 335, and he blocks well on film, I'm going with him. If you're a team that's in the middle, like Dallas is probably 2 or 3 wins away from being a playoff team. They had some bad. I think they had a bad loss against Chicago. I believe a couple losses to Philly, whatever, or loss or 2 to Philly.
So that one they were up 21-0.
Yeah. So it's just like they have like certain teams in that middle tier have a little flexibility. So a guy falling out of the top 10 because he has Caleb Downs' case, a rumor about a knee, still went top 15. Ruben Bain, the short arms, whatever credence you put into that. So quarterbacks, Garrett Nussmeier going from a top first round pick in 2025
or something like that
to 249. I don't understand that. I don't think his arm talent.
Well, see, it's kind of
before spots. Even if you feel like he fell off, I don't think he fell off 244 spots. So that's the thing with the draft that kind of like just befuddles me a little bit.
Well, some of it is just people talking. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys are just like, I think that at the beginning of the season, everybody makes a mock draft. So they're just throwing stuff together just to either get clicks, to have conversations, start conversations. So there's not a lot of science that goes into it. It's just put a quarterback up there because quarterback's the most important position or whatever the case may be. Then we see the season
come up. Was not the best player in this draft. He just was like the most prized player because he's a quarterback. Yeah. So
right. And then you had, as the season went on, you start to see people like Cade Klubnik, for example, who was a very high recruit, but the play slipped. He got injured, all that kind of stuff. So now you go back into, okay, guys like him and Nussmeier had injuries. But how do you go from this is what I think about this person to he's injured? It is not necessarily like an ACL or an Achilles or something like that would deter you from somebody. So why are you penalizing them for being injured? So then you get to the end of the season, and then, you got your Heisman moments, your, SEC games that you're watching. And now people are on your radar that weren't necessarily there before. So like, for example, the Steelers took Max Ihan Chenor. He was the guy I was talking about the other night that just started playing football, 3-4 years ago, offensive lineman. And it's kind of like, well, you're drafted in the first round, and granted, it's not top 5 or top 10. They were number 21, if I remember correctly. So it's like you're taking this guy. It's still a first round pick. It's still a pick that you theoretically could get someone that can make some kind of immediate impact.
But if the size matches the film, then you pull the trigger. Like the guy that Philly got out of Nigeria in the international program. Mm-hmm. He's fast, but he doesn't move like a football player. He's strong, but like the way his feet move, he doesn't move like a football player. He's athletic as hell, but he doesn't move like a football player. So if they put him on film, if you would have taken him in the first round based off of just the combine or like that particular workout, then that'd be a problem. But having a guy who's only played football for a few years, but you have film that says, oh, he moves like a football player. I'm picking a tackle. He moves like Lane Johnson. He moves like Penei Sewell. He moves like these other top tier tackles in our league. And I can teach him hand placement. I can teach him the punch. I can teach him the timing. I can teach him film on what Myles Garrett likes to do, even though Myles Garrett is probably going to kill anyone, but I can teach him that film. I can teach him what Houston's going to do if they end up coming to Pittsburgh. But you have enough. I think if you have enough film, but that's kind of the beauty of being one of these interior, being a position besides quarterback, and I think wide receiver. I think wide receiver is tough because if you're not thick enough, I don't think a team will take a flyer on you and try to make you a running back.
Or if you're not physical enough to get out the break.
If you're not physical enough to get out the break. So it's like, I don't know what I could do with you. If you're a quarterback, it's like, if you're injury prone and I take you with the 104th overall pick, expecting you to potentially be a starter, you can, like, your inability could ruin my opportunity. But if I take a defensive tackle at 104, I'm just adding him to the mix of the 11 guys that are going to make the defense work, and maybe he can make a breakthrough play. So I think that's the difference. I talk about it all the time, being like the parent of a high school player who plays offense and defense, tight end, wide receiver, linebacker, running back, safety, punt block, punt return. Like, he's all over the field. So when I'm going to these colleges on these visits, I'm like, okay, he can fit anywhere. But I know some guys where their kids are exclusively quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if we go to this school and my son sits here for 2 years and doesn't get to throw a pass, it's not like I do. My son's going to get on the field anywhere. They're going to be like, hey, we want to go in this 4-6 defense and we need 2 extra linebackers. Go out there. And he'll get his opportunity. So I think that's the difference between quarterback.
Well,
but him going from 5 to 249 is still that's
well, like Jamad McCoy is another example of that. You know, a lot of people, depending on which mock draft you read, had him going in the top 10, maybe the top 15, maybe being the second corner off the board. But then he had knee issues. You know, he didn't play last year. And then now they're saying he might need another surgery on top of that. So Mr. Logical, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you got the notes in front of you, but give me one guess of the team that took him.
Injury prone corner. The Jets.
The Raiders.
Oh,
well, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, like I said, the Raiders are 4th. The Raiders just grasping at straws. They're 4th in the division.
No, I know, but I just feel like the Raiders, like, so they're one of my losers. I don't feel like the Raiders actually addressed very much, you know, that they actually needed. You know, and it's crazy because they started off with the number 1 draft pick, so they obviously needed a quarterback. And then it just kind of went haywire from there, you know, like they got Traden Stukes. And I can't even hate on any of this because they got good players. It's just, did you need that? And, you know, so for example, with pick 195, they went and got Malik Benson, you know, from Oregon. You know how many wide receivers they could have had before they got him? You know what I mean? That they need, because, you know, you got Trey Tucker, you got Dante Thornton. They traded Jacoby Myers last year. So you would have thought, or I would have thought at least, hey, I got Fernando Mendoza. Now let me get him a target to grow with. You know what I mean? And maybe Dante Thornton is that. Maybe they view him as that. But you know what I mean? But you had 2 Indiana receivers that you could have tried to get in this draft. Omar Cooper, who went to the Jets, and Elijah Surratt, who went to the Ravens. You could have got one of those 2. Because I brought up the Bo Nix plan when they went out and got Troy Franklin for him, guy that he's familiar with. Then, you know, they got Mike Washington out of Arkansas. So good running back, you know, but okay. You know, they got 1 offensive lineman. They probably could have used 2. You know, I just don't necessarily feel they got players that fit what they need. And I guess it just depends on what you're looking at, because there is a thing to let's just draft good players. You know what I mean? And not necessarily try to climb right now.
I think you have 34 games. I think you have this offseason and next offseason. And, you know, this offseason, the season coming up as far as like the 17 games. Next offseason and those 17 games, you would think before anything drastic from a management perspective occurred, whether that's being you're not sold on your quarterback you just drafted in April 2026, like you got to be on board with him at the end of the 2027 season. Like April 2028, you still should be thinking Mendoza's our guy going into week 1 of 2028. So you should have that figured out. Ashton Gentry still should be your guy. if you can't move Max Crosby, if you have a defensive philosophy, do you have the right coach in place? Do you have the right things in place? And then going into the 2028 season, does Kansas City still have Andy Reid? Does John Harbaugh, Justin Herbert still play in LA? And Bo Nick, Sean Payton, has that fizzled out? It just understand you're playing the game, you're paying these players, and these guys are putting their bodies on the line. But when you're that far behind, there's a few teams that are. I think the Jets are another team that's pretty far behind, and they have a lot of questions they have to answer. So I just think get good players in the building, instill your philosophy, your program, 2 off seasons, 34 football games, ready to rock and roll 2028.
Well, see, the Jets are one of my winners. You know what I mean? We talked about David Bailey the other day as the 76ers go up 8 on the Celtics with about 5 minutes left. So David Bailey, good player. I just felt that's a lot going on with, they brought in T'Vondre Sweat. They got a pretty deep defensive line. So I just didn't necessarily like them taking him. But then they went and got Kenyon Sadiq. You know what I mean? Like, he ran a 4.39, you know what I mean? And he's 240 pounds. So athlete, can get off the line. He's a good blocker. I think that helps Geno Smith or Russell Wilson, because apparently they're looking at him now. Then you got, Omar Cooper, who I brought up. They went and kept the Indiana thing going with D'Angelo Pons, my guy. He's a little smaller, but he's got football IQ.
Can you make plays on the outside?
Yep, that's what he does.
Can you make tackles? Because, when you're a small DB, you're not taking on tackles.
Right.
You're out there. If you're a 5'9", 5'10" DB, yeah, you might get DK Metcalf or George Pickens every once in a while. Maybe a Drake London. I think Drake London is 6'4", 6'5". But as far as number one guys, I can't think off the top of my head. There's no Megatron figure out there. So long as you can stay in front of Rashee Rice, if you can stay over top of Xavier Worthy when you have to play the Chiefs, I think you're fine. But like I said, if you're in there trying to take
especially
on
in
guard,
that division. Especially in that division, Tyreek Hill's gone. So, you have Jalen Waddle, still to deal with. In Buffalo, they're drafting receivers at this point, and they did pick up DJ Moore. New England is always looking for a receiver.
When you play Buffalo, that's the safety and linebacker problem, because he only goes to the tight ends in crunch time. So it's as long as I stand in front of this dude, he's like, I'm looking for Kincaid. I'm looking for what's the boy named Dawson Knox.
Dawson. Yeah. And then so then they went and got my guy from Florida State, Darrell Jackson, another defensive lineman. They went and got Cade Klubnik. So that's kind of curious. Geno Smith, maybe Russell Wilson coming in, Cade Klubnik. So now, you could do theoretically what the Giants would have done with Jackson Dart, maybe, but they were so bad, the quarterbacks in New York, that Jackson Dart had to play. Whereas, here,
I don't think is your next man up at the QB position.
I don't think he is per se, but at least you have the vets in front of him to where the fans will let him develop. There's not going to be the Shador watch. Or y'all going to play Cade Klubnik?
Aaron, I don't think Aaron Glenn's on a hot enough seat though.
Not yet. I think if
Brian
they go,
Daboll knew he was on a high enough seat, and even though Russell Wilson threw for 747 yards against Dallas, one bad throw, he was like, the theatrics was they were over the top, but he was ready to get rid of Russell anyway.
If they finish last in the division, especially with
would be a surprise
with all the turnover in Miami, with Malik Willis as the quarterback, Tyreek Hill gone, still trying to fix that defense up. If you finish last this year, or you finish something like 6-11, that might be seen as an improvement. But anything less than that, he might come into next season on the hot seat.
If they finish with a subpar record, we'll go 6-11 as your linchpin. If the offense is scoring 20, 21 points, if it looks like at certain points in certain situations where it's like, all right, you get the ball back, 2:40 left in the first half. We want to get in scoring range, and they're getting field goals. I think he might have a shot. The problem is when you pair a lame duck coach with two, speaking of Russell Wilson, two aging quarterbacks. I think any organization would be like, we can just go new coach, young quarterback. And I think that's a dangerous position for Gino. But as long as the offense is like getting points, because Justin Fields, it was some games Justin Fields, you would send me like a quarterback passing line, and I knew it automatically with Justin Fields. It'd be like 3 for 11 for 48 yards, and it's 8 minutes left in the third. I'm like, Justin Fields out there sucking again. I'm like, I know, because I'm local. So I'm getting that on my food.
Well, that's why I wonder.
So I'm getting those games. I was getting Giants and Jets games. So I saw the 3 for 11.
Well, that's why I wonder, as far as the politics and inner workings of a team go, how much say does a coach really get in a quarterback? Because I can't imagine that me getting a head coaching job for the very first time, I'm going to walk up in there and be like, can y'all get me Justin Fields? And then coming off of Justin Fields, to turn around and accept Geno Smith. Like, that just doesn't seem very conducive to my career.
I think it might be, it's one of two things. Either it's a sign that he's getting his 34 games that I talked about with the Raiders and his 2 off seasons. So he had his last off season, 17 games. This off season, 17 games, and it's like, all right, now you got this off season is 2028 season. You got opportunity because New England is gonna have to pay Drake May at some point in the next, we'll say 12 calendar months. I'm imagining with the way the quarterback extensions are going,
right.
Josh Allen's going to get either a new deal, which is going to be astronomical, that has to pull a couple of defensive players and a guard or maybe a tackle.
But if I'm looking at it from
you're like, we just been down here collecting picks, collecting playmakers, letting guys play young, letting them get that 34 games of experience. Now we're ready to rock and roll.
But if I'm just looking at it practically, right? The Jets finished 3-14 last year. Geno was a Raider. They finished 3-14 last year. So if we do come out and say the Jets go 5-12, let's use 5-12. Okay. Like, and then going into year 3, I don't want to hear that I'm on the hot seat when those were my quarterbacks. Now, granted, you still got to make it work, but at the same time, it's like, can you really?
Don't they have 2 first next year because of the Dallas deal?
I had to check, but
so in theory, if these 2 first hit, and then you get, so you got 2 firsts, a second, a fourth, a 6th, and a 7th. We're thinking that Pons might be a viable just playmaker, just a ball hawk, understanding play route concepts, playing on a Signetti, getting it the hard way, grinding his way from 0-star guy to NFL 2nd-round draft pick. Maybe he gets it. Bolstering the defensive line, creating a pass rush to where you can't go through a whole 17-game season without getting an interception. When I watched Jesse Bates and Xavier Watts down in Atlanta with a very similar, like, not a staunch defensive line. I think between the two of them is about 9 or 10.
Right.
I think Jesse Bates took a couple back to the house. So it's like there's 2 players on another team that's, I wouldn't say on par, but in that same kind of purgatory when it comes to quarterbacks. Like, they're still making it happen with their picks to the point where, like, their defensive backfields making these kind of plays. You can't go 2 years without having playmakers and making plays in the defensive backfield.
So what do you think?
If that doesn't happen, then I think he might have to go. But if they get 4, 5, 8 picks, 10 picks this year, whatever the NFL average is, or just under that, maybe David Bailey gets you around 7 to 8 sacks. I think that gives you hope, because you can't have you can't leverage that many expectations on the possibility of having Geno Smith and Russell Wilson as your starting quarterbacks.
So what do you think about the Steelers going out here and drafting Mason Rudolph negative 1.0?
I was thinking about it today because I saw pictures well, he didn't throw the ball downfield in Penn State. Pittsburgh doesn't seem to care about throwing the ball downfield. So it might be a match made in heaven. I don't know, unless they don't love Will Howard, because I can't imagine you looking at Drew Aller thinking like he's giving you something substantially different than what you're going to do for Will Howard.
Well, especially with Will Howard comes with the legs at least too,
and a national championship.
So yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know. I just don't understand why, unless you have questions with Will Howard, that obviously we're not going to get every insider report because every quarterback isn't headline worthy. We heard all about Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders and all their trials and tribulations in the training camp. We didn't hear much about Will Howard.
Right.
And I guess there's still no word about Aaron Rodgers. Is he coming back or not? Or is
as far as I knew,
Mike McCarthy?
As far as I knew, he was on board.
I can send you a text right now while I'm still talking and drinking this water out of this, beautiful mug. Try to look it up.
Yeah, I think that Pittsburgh is just in an odd position because, they went out and got Michael Pittman in the offseason. And so theoretically, they're trying to push. I don't know if they could say push the chips all in, but they're not necessarily rebuilding. But if this is Aaron Rodgers, if he does come back and then this is his last year, then I guess, you're just kind of stuck from there. One of those two maybe are going to be a quarterback going forward. But
that'd be a weird way to go out. A lot like Brett Favre, throwing a pick on your last pass. But
the Cardinals are another team that I was interested in, from the standpoint of, I don't know what they really did. We talked about the Carson Beck pickup the other day, which I'm still against. A lot of people in the media have been banging on them for taking Jeremiah Love where they took Jeremiah Love.
It's irrelevant. Like, what are they going to do? Trade down and hope somebody doesn't do what they wanted to do? Like, if you wanted them, just get them.
Yeah, but everything else that they got was pretty nondescript, but it makes you wonder, like, you guys did bring in Tyler Algier, and I think that he came there with the intent of being a starting running back. And now you do this. So it's kind of like, I guess you're going to go with the 2 running back system from the standpoint of
we still have Connor.
Because I know. And Benson, they still got Benson, even though he's coming off the injury. So it just makes you wonder, what do you think about what the Falcons did?
Somebody's going to move out of Arizona just because it's not enough plays you can call in this passing league where teams are throwing 38 to 40 passes a game. It's not enough room for 3 running backs. Even if Jeremiah Love is catching 2 or 3 screen passes a game and running routes out of the slot, you still got to hand the ball off to these other 2 guys that you have brought in and or paid to be this 1-2 quarterback tandem. So, like, I think as far as that aspect, it does look like they wasted the pick. But in the same sense, it does give them leverage. Like, we have this guy, and if one of these other 2 running backs can't get on the same sheet of music, every training camp a running back goes down with an ankle or a toe or a head injury or a shoulder injury from practice, and Los Angeles will call, Rams or the Chargers, somebody will call and say, hey, which one of these guys are you willing to move off of if we made you the right offer?
So what are you thinking about the Falcons draft?
It was limited, which it normally is because Atlanta tends to, like last year, the Jets moved Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner. I think they're like 4. I think they gave them 4 first-round picks, 2 this year, 2 next year, and a couple of like ancillary picks, 3rd, 4th. Where you just kind of have a draft where you're going to end up with like 8 or 9 picks. Atlanta rarely does that.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a problem with the undersized wide receivers. I get that if a guy can run routes, that's perfect. But sometimes I just need that. Fuck it, he's down there somewhere. Fucking AJ's down there somewhere. Calvin Johnson. I know Calvin Johnson is an anomaly, but like AJ Green, he's down there somewhere. You know, like I could just throw it up and just
All reliable.
that DK Metcalf is down there somewhere.
Mike Evans.
They're just down there. Like even if it's third and 12, and you know whatever coverage it is, I'm just throwing it down there, and hopefully my guy is just because he is already starting off the play at 6'4", 6'5". I think I have a shot to complete this pass. If it's incomplete, it is what it is. But with a 5'9" guy, he has to be behind them somewhere. Like you have to get him over the top, or he has to beat them underneath. And I think that kind of limits what Atlanta is able to do. I like his speed. I like his playmaking ability, but I just don't know. We had the same problem last year with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and then Moody. Moody's running up 5'10", 5'11".
See, I like the Kendall Daniels. I like the Kendall Daniels pickup. You know, he's going to be that kind of hybrid, you know, that Buda Baker type guy. But what's interesting about Atlanta was Harold Perkins, because, you know, he came into LSU, as they say, ballyhooed. You know, he had all the hype. He was going to be the next great defender, and then he got hurt. And then all of a sudden, once he got hurt, it was like, hey, guess what? If you just throw at his side of the field, you'll find success. So here we are now, and I'm like, did he go from top 5 to not mention at all? Now he's going to be a special teams type player, or is there enough talent in there that we get to see some of the fruits that we thought we were going to see at LSU?
Depends on where do they put you? Where can you make plays? Because no matter where you get drafted, if you get an opportunity, especially with a team like Atlanta, we're not going to be in games up 17 points quite often. So we're going to need third down stops. We're going to need you to cover this running back out of the backfield and get the offense off the field and force a punt. If you're given an opportunity, can you make those plays? And I think instinctively, you get the size, speed combo, went to a top-tier college. Like you said, he was ballyhooed. And I get it. Some guys coming with a chip on the shoulder. Going 215, where people probably expect you to be a top 5 pick once you sign your letter of commitment to LSU, maybe puts a chip on the shoulder. But maybe it's a matter of, well, can I get this guy from – because I used to get upset with Atlanta because at this point they would go get a guy from like Montana Union because he popped at the combine or he popped on film. It's like, yeah, just go with the guy that went to LSU. Go with the guy that went to Oklahoma. Go with the guy that went to Georgia and say, you're playing in a pro-style, top-tier, high-pressure environment. Bring that to Atlanta, see if it translates.
Yeah, he's about 6'1", 220 with a 4.38. So, I mean, if you're going to take a chance, low risk, high reward, right?
I take a chance with that.
Yeah, low risk, high reward. As far as Washington goes, I'm not upset. I'm not happy. I'm just kind of we just exist. Obviously, Sonny Styles goes without saying. Correct. You know, Antonio Williams, I'm a big fan of. You know, like we'll see what he can do. And I think that, you know, he can help out in the return game as well. Joseph's from Tennessee, you know, he's explosive, but I don't know if he's a day one kind of guy, you know, but he was a 4th or 5th rounder, so I shouldn't expect that anyway.
I mean, listen, you know, we got an edge guy out of Tennessee, so they must know how to teach him because he had 10.5 sacks.
Yeah. And, you know, so there's that. Like, I mean, I like Tennessee again. You know, this is the 2nd straight year. I just feel like Tennessee's headed in the right direction. You know, Carnell Tate, Keldrick Falk in the 1st round. I was gushing, over Anthony Hill the other night. You know, they went and got Nick Singleton. Like, I like what Tennessee's doing. It's just a matter of, is Robert Saleh the guy to put it together? Now, I don't want to make any.
He made things shake in New York with not a lot of shakeable material. So I'll give him that. And once again, the NFL has this unique position of where fans can be optimistic because if you're a college football fan, depends on the tier your team starts at. If you're an Ohio State fan, 12 games, 10-2, they're probably going to be playing for some championship, whether it's Big Ten or college football playoff. If you're a Bama fan, 10-2. If you're a Clemson fan, 10-2. If you're Notre Dame, 10-2. It's all depending how it all plays out. And the NFL is like, I'm a Falcons fan. I just need the Falcons to do better than the Saints, the Panthers, and the Bucks. Well, if we play that out, then we have a shot. So if you're a Tennessee fan, you don't need Tennessee to be better than New England, the team that represented the AFC and the champion in the Super Bowl. I just need to see, is my team getting close to Houston? Because if we had to rank, so you go Jacksonville, Houston, Indy, Tennessee, just right now. Are we in that space to where we can win? We can steal one of these games on the road against one or two of these division opponents, and then also get them at home. Do we have enough to do that? Because I think that's where you can kind of build your identity. And I think Robert Saleh is a good guy for that. And he went and got Brian Dable. I think it's always a good thing. Sometimes you feel like a head coach, you get fired and then have to sit for a year. I think if you get fired, you should definitely have to come down a little bit.
Well, you definitely feel good.
You definitely shouldn't go Stefanski, head coach to head coach, but that's it.
But with Dayball, you have proof of concept, because the run that we're seeing Josh Allen on right now started with Dayball. So you at least have that where you have some kind of success, and you don't have to worry about him managing the whole team. So from that standpoint, as Robert Saleh goes, you have your quarterback, or, figuratively speaking, you have your quarterback of the offensive side of the ball with Brian Daboll. You got a young quarterback for him to mold that is an elusive running quarterback. Not necessarily, he's obviously not Josh Allen, but he's a mobile quarterback that Daboll could be familiar with stylistically. So I think
as well as Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think it works
in that space. Yeah,
I think I like it. And then of course the Saints. You brought up the Saints. We talked about Jordan Tyson the other day. They went out and got Lorenzo Styles. I like that versatility. He used to be a wide receiver. He's a corner now. You got Barry Brown, who's probably going to be their Shaheed replacement in the special teams game. You took a project with Trey Lance's little brother. So Oscar Delp is a pretty decent tight end from an athletic standpoint. He's not necessarily your receiving kind of tight end, but they got some future pieces.
Graham? Can you make him Jimmy Graham with Drew Brees? Can you say, hey, in these tight windows, can you use your big frame to get open and make it easier for Tyler Shook, a guy we took a flyer on and we got killed for?
Yeah. But another loser that I had was Detroit. So the other night, me and you had an argument, and we were talking about Ty Simpson and how the Rams are right there. So go get something that will, put you over the top or get you closer to the top.
Correct.
So when I look at the Lions, I feel like this season is such a this season, I think, is going to be the season that determines the Lions' fate going forward. Because, last year they didn't make the playoffs, which I predicted, by the way. But but the Lions had an opportunity.
On injuries too.
They did, but they had an opportunity, to get some things here. And I just don't see it. I don't see the player that stands out. Like, maybe you could go with
all the guys that are coming back off of injuries that they're keeping, and because some teams lose guys to injury. Detroit was losing a guy after they started losing defensive players to injury, and it was a talking point every week in their game. Started week 10 probably. if the pundit said Detroit's been riddled with injuries, they lost the guy that game almost without a doubt. Like if you watch from like weeks 10 through 18, I'm gonna say every single time I watch the Lions, because they're on TV a lot because they're a popular team, they were losing players. They were losing players for extended period of time, a lot of season and injuries. I think their philosophy's solid. I think
Whatever
I
it is.
think the Dan Campbell, the biting kneecaps initial press conference is kind of weird, but I think they embody that.
But I
And
think
Minnesota's never gonna. Minnesota's never gonna. They won't get over losing Sam Darnold,
so.
which is a weird thing to say.
So when I look at it, right, the Bears, lost a lot of their secondary. Minnesota is starting over with Kyler Murray, but they still need some pieces on defense. They probably need a better running game. I look at Green Bay, who was on the edge until Micah Parsons got hurt.
There was rumors that Green Bay was going to get rid of their coach. So
There were.
What's the?
And
That's what I'm
so,
saying. So like,
well, that's why with these linebackers or these
the
with these two Michigan dudes that they took, Rolder and Moore, they're both probably developmental guys. Ken Rolder play the 3-4? Or I'm sorry, Moore. Can Moore play the 3-4?
Yeah.
Can Rolder not give up passes? Because people targeted him last year. He was one of the few spots on the Michigan defense that you could kind of target a little bit and have some success. Abney, they drafted Abney, another corner, which is cool. But if you're going to draft a corner, at least get an athletic corner. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good football player. He'll help out with the run game, but I don't need my corner to necessarily be the best run stopper. I need him to stop these receivers.
Well, that's the thing with the draft. Get the guy in the building. If I can't line him up with Puka Nacua, can I line him up over top at safety? Or can I put 18 to 22 pounds on him and have him in the box? Like sometimes you got to get dogs. You got to get guys that are willing to bite kneecaps. And I think Detroit's, because they're not a finesse team, I feel of all the teams in that division, what Dan Campbell has to work with, I think he'll make it work, because it's a lot like the narrative that we talked about with Bill Belichick. Don't tell me what a guy can't do, tell me what he can do. So if I got to play one or two less skill position guys on the offensive side, so instead of going to a game with 9 offensive linemen, I go with 7 offensive linemen and 5 wide receivers, so I can play 2 or 3 extra linebackers that are a bit of hybrids. So when I go in these nickels and these dime and these quarter coverages, I can still stop the run with these bigger guys and they can play the pass. I just think Detroit is probably in a better position because I just feel like they're solid at quarterback, even with Jordan Love. But I just felt like the strain between the Green Bay press, whoever was bringing information out about Matt LaFleur, and Jordan Love kind of seemingly coming up short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know like everyone's expectation for every quarterback is to win a Super Bowl, but in the same sense, like sometimes like, yo, can you just win? Can you win this game by 10 points that you should win and not be in a shootout with Jameis Winston in the Meadowlands, or not get yourself hurt by running and trying to run guys over? Like, can you be available? And I think that's another piece. But with Detroit, I think they'll be fine.
I wasn't a fan of Jacksonville's draft. I did like Husky, the pick at 100, not because he went to Maryland, but I did like that pick.
Listen, for whatever reason you like it, you can like
it. Wesley Williams, the pick after that, I like. Everything else could have done without. So 2 out of 10, I like 20% of their draft. Are there any teams that you feel that either you're more intrigued about after the draft, or like that you feel made moves to where they might be a little bit better than you originally thought?
I think the teams I was intrigued about are the teams that like Kansas City, I'm always intrigued by them. Like, is your star quarterback coming back? So that's always an intriguing piece. The teams that went from like Jacksonville didn't make the playoffs. Like you said, they had 10 picks. When you make the playoffs, you tend to re-sign a lot of guys that you have. So you don't have a rebuild. Houston, I think this is a big year for them because they, based off of CJ Stroud's first year and what they are able to put out on the field defensively, they should be a 12. They should be a 12-5, 13-14.
To be fair,
without any harassment whatsoever.
To be fair, the Jags did make the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I mean. So, like,
I thought you said they didn't make the playoffs.
No. I say when they make the playoffs, they don't they don't create holes to be filled in the draft. So having 10 draft picks, but you made the playoffs is like, and when we talk about that playoff game, if Trevor Lawrence just holds up for a half a second, that guy's running wide open behind that dig route that he threw. And I don't know why he wasn't looking for him the whole time, because he was killing the whole second half. But so when you look at the film, you say, hey, we made the playoffs, we made a good run. We're probably 1 or 2 plays away from winning that playoff game. Let's bring a lot of these guys back. So you end up with 10 picks of like ancillary pieces instead of pieces that you want to put in to fill in these holes because you didn't have any. It's the same thing. It's like the Super Bowl conundrum. You go to the Super Bowl, whether you win or lose, you tend to either pay a bunch of guys who helped you win, or you lose a bunch of guys that got there and lost because they think the next team thinks that guy can help me win.
Yeah. So Tampa really has me intrigued, because they went and got Ruben Bain, with his short arms. But then they went and got one of my sleepers, Josiah Trotter, son of Jeremiah. I think from now on, whenever I say his name, I'm just going to say son of Jeremiah. Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. Now, I don't know if he's a 1-for-1 because, he's a big guy in that Mike Evans kind of frame. So I don't know if he's a 1-for-1, but I do like the idea of we lost this size. We should find something close to it. Yeah. Even if I don't expect that to materialize right away, obviously. And then they went and got Keontae Scott, who I was surprised was still on the board when he was on the board. I know he had some issues getting playing time at Auburn, but he came to Miami and was one of the better players on that defense that featured Ruben Bain and Messidor. So sign me up for that. So Tampa stands out to me. Obviously, I said all the things that I said about Tennessee, so I don't got to repeat all that. The Giants, I know I shouldn't say this as an NFC East, fan or what team. My team is in the NFC East, but, they went and got Arvell Reese. He was the guy that the week of the draft started getting all the hype. There's always the guy that, he was getting hype from day one, don't get me wrong, but it really ratcheted up during draft week. People had him going as high as 2 to the Jets. They went out and got Colton Hood, one of those corners that I was in love with in this draft. Malachi Fields, who, now this is just one of those things, at his best, he could be an Anquan Bolden type. If it doesn't pan out that way, maybe you get a lesser Michael Pittman. So I could live with that because I got Malik Neighbors on the
$120 million deal.
Right. And I got Malik Neighbors on the other side. So I can live with that. They went and got Jack Kelly out of BYU. I know he was their last pick in the 7th round, but he's a blitzer. He can attack gaps. He fits every. And the thing about a guy like him,
did he already do his mission?
I'm not sure, but you could look at a guy like him and go, all right, 2-5. Like, is he really going to bring all this to the defense as a late round pick? And then I say, maybe not. But he got Thibodeau, Arvell Reese, Burns. he's got the pieces around him to where some lanes are going to be open.
Their defense, if you're a gambler, you should probably be confident. If you bet $20 a week on a defensive scoring touchdown for the Giants, at least 6 a hit, probably. Just because what they're able to do defensively. But I felt the same way last year. And it didn't really pan out. I felt the same way Abdul Carter and Burns and Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence. I just felt like I think the secondary wasn't very strong. I just felt up front, their front seven and the rotation, it reminded me of the concept that they applied in the 2007 season, 2008 Super Bowl when they beat the Patriots and when they beat the Patriots again. Let's just flood the market with 7 guys that we could rotate in fresh on the defensive line and just cause havoc in the backfield. I thought that would be the visual we got last year, and it just never panned out that way.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Jets. I'm interested in the 49ers. They went out and got Mike Evans. It looks like Jawan Jennings is going to be playing elsewhere next year. Sounds like he's pretty close to a deal with Minnesota. But they went out and got Dejon, Stribling, who is the nephew of the original Rock, Don Morocco. So, as a WWE fan, I'm here to watch him play. But I don't know if I like him as high as the 49ers took him.
Apparently, John Lynch can't draft. I've seen a lot of these clips of this reporter asking him, hey, what do you think about your draft grades and why you keep reaching? Because he's had the lowest between 29 and 32 as a ranking of the guys you draft and where you get them and where they were valued over the last 4 years.
Well, the 49ers are one of those teams that you kind of, I don't want to say you give them benefit of the doubt, but they develop, that they're going to come with development. So taking
Shanahan has this great,
right. So taking a guy like this,
things look great.
Taking a guy like this, I don't think this guy is ever going to be a star or anything like that. He doesn't get enough separation, from my liking, but he's a big body that they could take advantage of, with a guy like Brock Purdy who can get the ball down the field. They picked up Romello Height from Texas Tech, who is a little small, you know what I mean? But he's one of those guys that you're talking about, get him in the weight room, see if you could get 15 to 20 pounds on him. And if you can do that, he was one of my favorite players in college football last year. So if you can do that, then you might have got yourself a steal right there. They brought in Black from Indiana, Kalen Black, the running back. So, strong runner, a guy that could spell CMC in big spots.
So all these guys all these GMs, they can say all this glorious stuff at the podium. They looked at the 12 teams that made the playoffs and said, let's make sure we get all of their best players.
well,
Tech was never going to have a bunch of draftees. I remember a few years back, Texas, you don't like Texas or you think Texas is probably one of the most overrated college franchises ever. But they still get the best. They get Oklahoma's best players as well, the state of Oklahoma. They get a lot of Louisiana's best players, and they keep a lot of their best players in-house, coupled with the fact they get a lot of guys from Arizona. So the surrounding states, excluding New Mexico, the surrounding states, those guys tend to play football in Texas. The University of Texas had 3 guys drafted 4 years ago. And then they made the college football playoffs and had 12 guys drafted in the first 48 picks or something crazy like that. They just watch, because these GMs are only paying attention to the NFL game until they get that Christmas break and all the bowl games start, and they watch the bowl games, they see who's there, they look at the top 8 guys for each one of these bowl teams, and they figure, how do we get one of these guys, where do they rank?
And the 49ers also got a very, very good corner. And to top him being a very, very good corner, He has the best name in the whole draft. Ephesians Pricesock. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely here for that. So real quick, while we wrap this up, I'm going to just run down a list of guys that I'm curious about as far as, you know, they're either going to be surprises or they're going to be out of the league in 3 years. So I got a couple of names here. So I brought up Malachi Fields already. I don't think he'll be out of the league, but I got his name written down. We talked about Harold Perkins already. Adam Randall, you know, from Clemson. He was a running back, started out as a wide receiver, you know, picked up by the Ravens. So, you know, they're another one of those teams that we give benefit of the doubt to.
If you got picked up on the offense by the Ravens and you're a fringe player, you better play. You better just say, hey, can I play corner?
Skylar Bell from UConn, wide receiver, going to Buffalo. I think that's going to be a sleeper pick, you know, from not because necessarily that he was a sleeper, but for the fact that Buffalo got him, that he's going to get to play with a Josh Allen type, and they went out and got DJ Moore in the offseason.
What is measurables?
So I think that he's going to be
6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, he's 6'1" or so. Let me get you the exact here. You know, but he was one of the better wide receivers in college football last year. It was just that he played for UConn. So, you know what I mean? Fajano was his quarterback. He's 6 foot 192. So, you know, so
That's
get
not
him
a
about
Josh
10 pounds.
Allen guy, though.
No, but he can make plays, though. He can make plays because you got to get the ball, because, you know, you got what's my guy's name? Shakir.
Shakir is Josh Allen's guy.
Yeah,
in those,
and then DJ Moore,
undersized guy, make those plays,
and DJ Moore will run those tough routes. And now you got another receiver that you could put on the outside.
What are they doing? Is he still in the outskirts? Is he still?
Who's that?
Keon Coleman is he?
I haven't heard much. You know what I mean?
Saw a video of him at a Toronto Raptors game, and he was shaking hands with a guy sitting next to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm an NFL play receiver for the Buffalo Bills." So he said that, and that was last week at the Raptors playoff game. So,
I mean, maybe we'll find him at the Iceman release party. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Malik Muhammad, corner out of, ironically, Texas. You know what I mean? Like, the secondary was one of their strengths. It was so good last season, so I'm interested to see how he plays out. Kamari Ramsey, you know, safety out of USC. Versatile guy. He can play corner or safety. You can move him around in the box. Like, so I think he's one of those gadget kind of guys. I don't know if he has a true position long term, but I think, you know, I'm interested to find out. Katron Allen, you know, the other part of that Penn State backfield, coming to my Commanders. So if nothing else, we got our goal line back. So, you know, that'll go a long way. We talked about Kate Klubnik. And then finally, Damon Claiborne, running back from Wake Forest. He went to the Minnesota Vikings. You know, I'm interested to see him because I think that he's one of those guys that he played on a bad team. He probably doesn't have the measurables that people are looking for. Like, like back in the day, you know, we used to say things like scat back. You know what I mean? And like, instead of a running back, he's a halfback. You know, that's this guy, you know, throwback to those days. So I want to see him in space, especially when you got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison.
Bad reps because they're not deployed in most NFL offenses to the point where you might need 8 to 9 carries to make an impact. If you're 4 carries for 12 yards, sporadically throughout weeks 1, 2, 5, and 7, you're probably not going to get a lot of touches, and that's the problem with the NFL running back position. So I was like, listen, if you can physically withstand the beating to play linebacker, and you're a fringe running back, I will look into figuring out how do I adjust to the 3-4 to 4-3 of the nickel defense, because like you're not getting opportunities to like really show you what you could do.
Yeah. So he's 5'10", 194. He runs a 4.37. So that's the kind of guy that you just find a way to get on the field. You know what I mean? Even if it's just returning punts or kickoffs, or even if it's screen passes every so often, line him up in the slot, run a dig or something like that. Like, he's going to be the kind of guy that you just got to find ways to get on the field. But, those are my thoughts on the NFL draft. But Mr. Logical, I got an update for you.
Ooh, Philly pull it out?
We are going back to Philly for Game 6. Not only did Philly pull it out, they whooped that ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, right around the time that we were starting the pod, we were like,
I was downstairs.
It was a close game, and
Boston was up 13 when I texted you saying I was finishing up my food.
Yeah, and then Philly, from that time, Philly had went on a 20-5 run, and then it just went haywire from there. And it's so crazy because before this game tonight, I was going to get on here
from the game that they won. I think the score might be the same.
But I was literally gonna get on here and talk about how Jason Tatum is back. He looks like one of the best players in the league right now. He's showing you the difference because, we had the arguments and conversations about, is he better than Jaylen Brown? I do think he is, but I don't think the gap was that wide. But he was doing the things, playmaking, that separates them.
Yeah.
That's what separates
16
them
tonight.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But they got whooped, so I didn't want to talk about it. But but his playmaking is what sets him apart from Jaylen Brown. And that's what he was showing in Game 4 or Game 5. I'm sorry, hold on. Let me get my math right. Game 4, that's what he was showing the other night. He was showing that playmaking ability that you saw during the championship run, or that you saw in that series against Milwaukee a few years ago. That Jason Tatum was showing up. So I was here for it. But
we expecting 44, like about 40 points from Jason Tatum, or are we going to go Pritchard taking the soul out of Philadelphia crowd?
Oh, I think it's Pritchard, man. Like, you don't want Pritchard with the ball in his hand if there's a buzzer beater coming up. You don't want that. I think
the moment doesn't seem too big for him ever.
Yeah, so Philly did something tonight that they should have did the other night. Let Boston have Embiid go down low. Boston fronts him because none of Boston's big men are necessarily the type that could body Joel. I mean, there's not many people that can body Joel Embiid in the first place.
7'2",
so,
280 pounds.
Yeah, so because like in Game 4, in Game 4, he hung out, taking that free throw jumper, 18-footer. He's hanging out at the 3-point line, but it boggled down the offense because they were at their most successful when Maxey and Edgecombe were just flying, but in Game 4, he kind of clogged up the middle of the floor, so they couldn't do that. So tonight, he went down low a little bit, and Philly was able to get out in transition. So Boston's success tonight was a lot of transition. So they're not going to win the series, but I think they can make Game 6 interesting. I still think Boston pulls it out, but I think they can make it interesting.
Thursday. It's like Thursday night.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
because I think we're at that point where we're going every other day. Yeah.
Yeah, travel day, and then.
And the good news is that he wasn't coming off of an injury. Like, he wasn't coming off a lower extremity injury or soft body tissue, any of that stuff that.
It still might hurt. I think Adam Silver's I think he's liking this current playoff run. I just saw the score for the Atlanta and the Knicks game.
Yeah, that's what I'm watching now.
I'm wearing the Knicks beanie. I stole it from Ava, so might as well just wear it.
Turncoat.
I picked them to win a series. I know
you're supposed to be repping the Nets.
Listen, when Brooklyn figures out how to put a team together,
hey, you wait till they get Ja Morant.
Listen, I might check it out. I might make a weekend out of it. Brooklyn's a great city. Brooklyn Brewery, You have Dumbo, like Brooklyn's a dope little spot. Williamsburg. It's all,
All right. All
it's
right.
all. Granted, it's all gentrified, and that's a different thing. But for the most part, Brooklyn's a nice little spot. But yeah, they got to make the right moves. I think the Boston Philly series I think it's good. So there's not a bunch of gentlemen sweeps. I think Orlando, Detroit, I'll let you, kind of dive into that because I know you're probably just all in the weeds in those numbers. That's surprising. But for me, I'm thinking what I felt about Detroit was I thought their physicality would limit Orlando's opportunity to score. But I remember game one, those guys were just scoring through contact.
Do you remember what
every
I
single
told
time.
you? Do you remember what I told you when we were previewing the series?
You probably said something very profound that's probably actually true.
No, nothing profound. I just said Orlando's going to be physical right back. You know what I'm saying? Orlando is one of the teams that can body Detroit up the way that Detroit likes to body other teams up.
But yeah, that like I was talking about game one, Orlando was making all those very contested shots. Like Bain was making shots through contact, Wagner was making shots through contact. Banchero was making.
He got hurt last night.
He was making that mellow jumper, like that I can get open in a phone booth kind of jumper. He was knocking that down, and I think they just believed that they could do it. You talked about the coach potentially being gone. I think that would be a disservice to the organization, even before they were up 3-1. Just because I felt like. You think he secured his job by going up 3-1? If they win this series, he's definitely locked in.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I
just feel like that have that opportunity to because even if you didn't win this series, you have pieces where you can kind of move. I know the NBA is weird with trades and money has to match up, but I think you can get 3 role players and a starter in a Apollo deal. If this series were a different way, if they were down 3-1. I think you can make that move.
I think that series like this end up being a gift and a curse because, Paulo probably should be moved, if for the future of the franchise, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of we got to get guard play in here. We got to get more shooting in here, but also when you're looking at this series, the thing that stands out to me, and it was something that I brought up before the playoffs, and it was why I picked Cleveland to beat Detroit in the second round, is that I don't know what you do when Cade Cunningham either is off or just isn't necessarily effective. So the last 3 games, he's averaging 8 turnovers. This is where it gets real damning, Mr. Logical. I don't know how the hell Orlando won that game last night. When you had Paulo and Suggs combined 5 for 31. 5 for 31. Jalen Suggs was 1 for 13. Jalen Suggs was 1 for 13.
I think you
by
and
his
I right
self.
now, basketball shoes and shorts on tomorrow, could go 5 for 31 in the NBA game between the two of us.
But he, but that's the thing. Detroit was missing free throws. Detroit was, they're just not effective down low because Wendell Carter, he's defending his girl's honor or something, saying he got Angel Reese on his mind. And he's like, I'm dunking on Duren every chance I get. And and Duren, right? We were talking about him. This was his first year making an all-star game. So coming into the playoffs, here we go.
Put in a casket, but
you know what he's averaging right now in this series?
11 and 8,
9.8 points, and 12 points last night was his high for the series. You know what I mean?
I'm noticing, and I've talked about this before when it comes to can you beat this team 4 times in 11 days? Like that's been my mantra. I think Orlando kind of realized, when the going gets tough, it's Cade Cunningham or no one.
But there's something else at play here.
Porter and what's the, Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
I don't know if you play them together more often to space it a lot like Boston.
But see, that's the
You're
problem.
going to hurt yourself defensively.
Right. That's the problem.
But I'll take 3 for 2, and I'll put a big in there that's going to just foul at the rim. Like, you got to sacrifice somewhere to create. Because Duncan Robinson doesn't need much space to get a shot off. He doesn't want to dribble it. Horder is about the same. They're about 6'6", 6'7" shooters. Because when Cade Cunningham's out there, he's exhausting himself, fighting through, like, because he's calling for the screen, so he's getting grabbed, coming off that. The guy that's screening, that's rolling to the hoop, isn't a natural scorer if it's Durant or if it's Stewart. So you might need a guy that he can just kick the rock to for 2 to 3 minutes per quarter to have both of them out there and say, hey, can you guys go 4 for 9 from 3 in this 4 to 5 minute stretch in the fourth and on the second quarter so we can give him a break?
You might need to play Cade and Jenkins together more, but it brings up an interesting question because I know when we talk about sports, and more so football, we talk about how teams aren't built for the regular season, they're built for the playoffs. And, so when I look at JB Bickerstaff, there was a lot of people upset when Cleveland let him go. And then, Cleveland went out and won 64 games last year. And people said, well, JB Bickerstaff had that team set up, blah, blah. It wasn't quite like Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. Right. Yeah. But he had them going. They were ascending. You know what I'm saying? So now you bring yourself back and you go, is JB Bickerstaff a regular season coach that in the playoffs, he just doesn't have that formula. He doesn't have the adjustment. He doesn't have the creativity. Almost he like
doesn't have a second guard that can score the basket.
Well, last year, right? Well, I was going to bring that up because last year, they had Malik Beasley. They had Tim Hardaway coming off the bench. So they had not only shooters because you were talking about Duncan Robinson and Horder, but Hardaway's a bigger shooter. You know what I mean? So he was able to play defense on the wings and all of that too, where you wouldn't be as hurt. So with Duncan Robinson, to your point, it's almost like he's in a constant state of at the end of the game when you're doing your offense defense substitutes on free throws, but you have to do that the whole game with him. And it's just not feasible. So we'll see if Wagner, how serious his injury is, if he'll be there or not. But for all intents and purposes, man, when I'm looking at the Orlando Magic, I'm looking at the basketball version of the Cleveland Browns. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you get a touchdown, and in Orlando's case, you get a three-pointer, you just live with it and feel like you should win because the shit doesn't happen often enough outside of Desmond Bain.
Desmond Bain's little, pterodactyl arms when I hear shooting his ass off.
He is, man. He is.
I think Adam Silver is really pleased with the way the playoffs are set up. I personally think, I don't know what the financial cost is for the NBA, but I'm like, you need to broadcast games at this, maybe not this same rate where you have 3 games national television and 2 of them, unlike each one of them is overlapping the other. That might be a lot. But if you want people to really buy into the NBA, there's a lot of downtime where we're just talking about the NFL. I know everyone's afraid of the NFL as far as they're taking a ball. Listen, you have your Sunday games. A lot of those games don't get watched. You have your Monday night game. Then it's conversation Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday until the prime game starts. If I'm the NBA, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm doing this format where I have 3 national games and not just Sixers, Celtics, Houston, San Antonio, LA, Golden State, because I'm going to watch those games anyway. Tuesday, Wednesday, give me Charlotte, Philly. Give me Orlando, New Orleans. and then give me Houston, Phoenix, or whatever. Just give me 3 teams that you want to market the young star, because in between the football, the conversation surrounding football in between the games is sometimes ridiculous. It's excessive, and it's only Cowboys. Like it's just strictly Cowboys. So you're only really competing with people who want to talk about the Cowboys. So do this overlapping thing throughout the regular season on a national schedule more often. Tell Budweiser or Hennessy or Timex watches or Tuso watches or got them DraftKings or FanDuel, whoever wants to advertise it, listen, you got to check out a few more shekels so we can do this. So when the playoffs come around, we're really highlighting all the players of the league, because right now, the way they're playing games, it's perfect for how people want to watch basketball games. I don't want to watch the whole thing. I'm going to watch a little bit of this, the Sixers-Celtics game, do what I got to do. I'm going to come back. Hawks, Knicks is on right now, and then Trailblazers, Spurs started after that. So I can get a little bit of each game, still maintain my daily after-work life, and now when I'm laying it down, I get the West Coast game, I'm going to sleep, but it already started at 9:30 versus the West Coast game starting at 10:30, and I'm like, I'm not paying attention to that.
So, before the playoffs started, we were talking about, the play-in teams and everything like that. And I was talking about how Dylan Brooks came out and said that nobody wanted to play them. So since the playoffs started, to include the play-in, Phoenix finished at 6-10, and they were the only team to get swept in the first round of the playoffs.
They played their little hearts out, though.
Yes, and I can't even bang on Dylan Brooks too hard, because he led the Suns in scoring in this series. 26 points per game. As a matter of fact, I bet you the Rockets could use Jalen Green right now, who averaged 22 points in this series, which was still more than Devin Booker. SGA, of course, is just, I don't even know what this dude is on.
He's averaging over 30, right?
34. He's averaging 34 with 8 assists and 4 rebounds.
Because he knows he's unguardable.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
He knows definitively none of you can do anything with what I'm doing on this basketball court.
And what's impressive? The impressive thing about SGA is, like, in this series, he shot 31% from 3, but he still shot 55% overall.
Because he knows, like, you want to crowd me, I'm gonna get 2 fouls on each of your best 2 defenders, even if I don't get shooting free throws out of it. I'm getting these guys off of me. Then I'm gonna get your 3rd best defender, or I'm going to get each one of those guys in a timid state because they can't get their 3rd foul. I'm going to get to the free throw line extended, and I'm going to pull up, and I'm going to knock it down. Right. Or I'm going to get to the rim, because Phoenix doesn't really have a lot of rim protection. Most teams don't. And people talk about the foul baiting, and I get the aesthetics of how SGA, but it kind of extrapolated throughout the entire team. A lot of those guys are flopping. Like Chet was flopping. In a regular pickup game, when those guys play their basketball games in the off season, Lifestyle Fitness, and those different places, they're not acting like that. They're just playing basketball.
You know what it reminds me of?
They flop and they flail and they like it's.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Cleveland the first time LeBron was there, where like Mo Williams was getting calls that he wouldn't get if he played for any other team. Like they were just getting everything. And it was like one of those things where people are like, oh, you're just hating on LeBron. It's like, no, the whole team is getting these calls.
The thing with LeBron, and we talk about Cal Korver's statement about it, he was like, I used to think he was flopping until I joined Cleveland and I watched from the bench like how much he does get hit.
Shut up, Kyle. He's still flopping.
And he has to sell it. And I get it. He's selling it. The problem is I don't want Chet and Lou Dort got to stop acting like it's a natural move to kick your foot back. Like, there's nothing natural about kicking your foot back when someone's running past you unless you're trying to trip them up. Like, just speak the truth.
Which he did to Devin Booker.
He did it. He did it as many times. He did it to Jokic. He did it to Devin Booker. He's done it so many times. And I get it. You have to feed your family and fund your lifestyle, and being a gritty, scrappy player is how you've done it. And there's a line in the sand.
Are crazy.
It's a line in the sand, and you erase that line, you draw a new one, whatever the case may be. But Phoenix, like I said, I told you yesterday, Phoenix plays the hardest of all the teams, but like they had no shot.
Yeah.
And it's because I think OKC is just built. They're built for so many type of games. I think they're built for your 99 to 97 victory, but I also think that they have players that can get you a 122 to 97 victory. I think SGA gets whatever he wants. And if he doesn't, he's so good at creating contact and creating the foul calls that even if the shot's not falling, he'll still get to the free throw line, frustrates the other team, the coaches. I think they have a perfect formula. It's just not aesthetically pleasing, even though all of his numbers compare him to Jordan. The way it looks nothing like those highlights that many of us have seen.
Yeah, and I guess tonight is just blowout night in the playoffs. Spurs up 15, Knicks are up 17 in the fourth quarter. So from one Canadian to another, Jamal Murray and the Nuggets. They coming back to win this series?
They got a shot. And they got a shot. When a guy's like Anthony Edwards not there and a role player like DiVincenzo's not there, you got a shot. Because realistically, people say, oh, it's so impossible to come back from 3-0, 3-1, 3-2, whatever. No matter what, you only get credit for one game at a time. So as long as you can win game 5, now the series is 3-2. All you have to do is win game. You don't have to win game 7 before it starts. So long as you can come out there and say, hey, I think the guys I have available through injury and attrition, suspensions, whatever the case may be, why a guy is not out there, illness,
do you think
death
that there's
in the family, whatever. If I have my horses and you have whatever horses you brought, let's race.
So who do you think has more pressure? Is it Minnesota because they were up 3-1, or is it Denver 100%. Because tell me more, say more.
Because you were down 3-1. You're already down 3-1. The critiques were already just kind of being flooded. The reaction to Jokic running up on Jay McDaniels, getting yoked up by
and if he had done that more often on defense, maybe the Nuggets would have been up 3-1.
But you already were down 3-1. So now, unless Anthony Edwards can somehow hyperbaric chamber, Toradol, Percocet, Tylenol, Bengay wraps, whatever he needs to get his knee ready to play in game 6, then it's on Denver to make it happen. Minnesota, the pressure's on, but yeah, like I think the pressure's overwhelmingly on Minnesota just because they were up 3-1. And I don't think there's much on Denver because it's like, well, you were down 3-1, it is what it is. You can go on right out to the sunset. But if you blow a 3-1 lead, the circumstances won't be the conversation in a 2029 conversation about basketball.
Well, you see, Denver's doing exactly what I told them not to do, first of all, because before this series started, I talked about last year how they went to 7 with the Clippers, and then they had to go with that OKC series right after. Here they are again, messing around, and even if they get out this series, they got to win game 7. Then you got Wemby waiting for you, and Wemby closing out tonight. You know what I mean? So the Spurs are going to have a little break here. Not that they need it because they're young, but it's just the principle behind it is you're a little bit older. Aaron Gordon's out, with the calf. He's in street clothes. So, I don't know if tomorrow you use him as like an emergency quarterback.
Out, man.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Windows close.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you use
it's
him.
Not, you don't have championship valleys that are just open all the time until you decide to stop traveling down this valley.
Do you think that they can use him as
nature?
Do you think they can use him as an emergency quarterback tomorrow night?
Ooh, Aaron Gordon?
Yeah.
Not if he's in street clothes anytime this week.
Because I figure, you know what I mean? Like, look, for all intents and purposes, I think Denver's going to win this series.
I'd roll out with the guys that I have if I'm Denver because every team has an MVP and every team has a guy that can go off with an MVP-like performance. If I'm Denver, I have both of those guys available. And like I said, they've won a championship. They've competed at a high level for multiple years in a row. Like post-bubble, Denver's been that team that's been in the conversation for best team in the West. They've been in that 1-4 mix for the last 6 years, centered around these two guys you have available. So it's not a New York Knicks situation where you have Cat, you have Jalen Brunson, and they're both really good players, but the accolades haven't come with the attitude. I think the accolades that Denver as a team has kind of collected with Jamal Murray, Jokic being the catalyst and the centerpiece for those accolades. You roll up to Minnesota without Anthony Edwards, without DiVincenzo, you feel like us two and whatever 4 to 6 guys we bring off the bench, we can take on whatever they have without their best player.
Yeah, and Denver, best 3-point shooting team in the league during the regular season, 30% in this series. Jokic at 19%, Murray at 28%. And if you're Minnesota, though, coming off of last night, I know it's easy for everybody, to include myself, to go, oh, yeah, it's over for Minnesota now. You know what I mean? But remember, Cam Johnson, came out and had a game that he doesn't have very often. Spencer Jones came off the bench and went 4 for 5 from 3 and 7 for 9 from the field overall. So there were still outliers where if you're Minnesota, you go, yo, we can shut that down. McDaniels got in foul trouble early.
But that's the piece. I need a certainty. I need 87, 86, late in the third. I'm Minnesota. I need a guy I can call a play for from Chris Fentz from the sideline, get the ball in his hand, and I know when the ball leaves his hand, we're either up 1 or 2, or he's creating contact and he's getting to the free throw line. Like, that's important to know. All these guys can knock down shots.
Well, I was going to say, yeah. Does
guys have like an amazing, surprise 16 and 19 and 22-point night? But Jokic is guaranteed to pretty much slap you in the face with a triple-double. Jamal Murray is guaranteed to not shy away from the moment to where I'm taking whoever's defending me to the cup. That's the thing. I don't know if you have that same surety in the Minnesota side.
Yeah, because, I mean, you had Bones Highland, come and give some great minutes off the bench a couple games ago. You had Ayo DeSumo come in with the 43 points in game 4. So, it's like, so there's a lot of outliers going on that we see when the home team is at home.
Now,
so
can you bank on him getting 40 again in game 6?
No, but can
Minnesota to
I might not need him to
give him that opportunity.
I might not need him to, but can he get me 25?
It might not give an opportunity
because I don't think 43 is. I don't think 43 is obviously realistic. But if you could get me 20,
he needs about
if I could get
17 and 19 shots.
So if I could get say
25,
if I could get 31 from Randall, 25.
How many shots Randall takes to get you 31?
That's the problem. That's the problem.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, is he getting you 31 shots because he's going 4 for 14 from 3?
Can Highland get me, 8 to 10, on a good percentage? Can McDaniels get me somewhere near 14 or 16? So it's like every man on deck is basically what it boils down to.
Correct.
Because you don't want to go back to Denver for game 7.
Being at home does give, I don't know I'm pretty sure there's some analytics person who went to MIT who has a formula that shows what role players do at home versus on the road.
Well, they track that. They do track that.
Yeah, but I imagine that's also kind of, with the expectation that the star player for the home team is available. Wemby being the star for San Antonio, what does Dylan Harper do in San Antonio because Wemby's there? But if Wemby's not there,
you know what he does? When Wemby missed that playoff game, Dylan Harper went 27-10. That's what he does.
Is that, can I analytically, like, I'm not a big fan of analytics, but I just figure I think all these NBA players they're one of 5, like basically they're one of 5,000 people that have been in this league in the last 50 years since it's 75 years in the NBA, the top 75 players, but I think it's kind of mixed in with like ABA players and things of that nature. So they're one of 5,000 guys to do it. So I know they're on the top tier of what they are doing. But in a playoff situation, if I'm coach, am I putting the ball in Osu? DeSumo, sorry. Am I putting it in his hand with 14 seconds left in the shot clock to work the same plays that I would call for Anthony Edwards?
No, obviously not.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, should I do that? Like, should I just kind of adjust that?
Anthony Edwards is the type of dude that I haven't counted out that he could play game 7. You know what I mean? Because I think they are going 7. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I think they're going 7. This ain't 2-3 years ago, whenever that was, when Denver lost game 7 on their home floor. Minnesota better channel
was standing at the baseline.
Yeah, like Minnesota better channel their 2025 playoff and find Rudy Chamberlain. Say he's being paged to the stage. You know what I mean? But on top of that,
go 32-20 next game.
You know who the best defender for Wemby has been?
Drew Holiday.
How does that work?
It's the Chris Paul effect. Did the same thing to Kevin Durant. Can't move it out your hips. You cannot play effective basketball without the ability to move your hips. And I think Chris Paul did it to Kevin Durant, and Drew Holiday did it to Wemby. And Wemby weighs probably less than Drew Holiday if you keep it real.
I think that if you're Portland, you take away from this series that
we had a good time.
We're young enough, and we'll get another crack at the apple because, just last game, right? They were up 19.
Their owner's going to fuck this up.
I hope not.
This is it. This is it.
I hope not.
They are playing. What's the plan? You got to be top 10. They're 12. They're 11 or 12 next year.
Well, they got a what's the word I'm looking for? They're probably going to try to move Scoot after the season. Because I don't know what he's giving you right now. They won 42 games this year. So there's that. But I think that they're headed in the right direction. Denny Avdia has been playing well. He's got that kind of hardenish game where he starts and stops and is frustrated.
He plays like Manu Ginobili.
He does.
I'm going to the rim no matter what.
And Shaden Sharp. Obviously Drew Holiday is going to be another year older. They'll have Dame back next year, presumably. So I think they'll be fine. But they just ran into the buzzsaw this year, and Wemby's just too much.
When you're in, the 7 seed.
Yeah.
But that works when Paul Allen's your owner, and that guy also owns the Seahawks, and he has Microsoft money. He's excited about being from the Northwest and being an owner in these Northwest teams, and understanding that the region loves these teams. This new owner canceled the shirts for Game 3.
Right.
They have been in the playoffs since like Dame time, before Dame went to like another team. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Dame is back, he's not playing, and you cancel the shirts because you want to save $1 million. And I get it. I probably will never get to the point in my life where like I'm looking at a portfolio and it says I have enough money to buy for a basketball team for $4.25 billion. So maybe to me, looking at a billionaire saying, "Hey, you trying to save $1 million, dog? That's 1,000. You have $4 billion to pay for the team. That's 40,000. That's $4,000 million checks. Like, what are we doing here?" But I think he's gonna ruin. It's gonna be a lot like the people in Dallas, where the team is gonna be treated like a commodity. They're gonna factor off the NBA TV money. But yeah, this is Portland's hurrah. Like, so I hope the fans who have their tickets tonight clap very hard, cry for the team, and just they're really thankful for like what happened, because this current owner will ruin this franchise going forward. They will be in the bottom of the Western Conference for the next 2 to 3 years before he decides to sell again.
Well,
what was it? April 28th, 2026. Trust me.
Well, I was talking to some people over in H-Town, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's the new music? I haven't heard any new music come out of Houston in a while." And then my boy said, "We ain't listening to no new music. We over here singing, we're staying alive." That game where they blew the 6-point lead with 30 seconds is going to come back to haunt them. Because they're down 3-1 now instead of being tied 2-2 because of that game. It was right there. Ime Udoka finally started playing people off the bench that he hadn't played. Aaron Holiday made an appearance in Game 5. I don't know. I don't think Houston has enough firepower to come back and win the series.
Going on with Kevin Durant. That's the real question.
Well, I think Kevin Durant's done. I think there's already rumors that the Wizards are looking at trading Anthony Davis for him. So that I think we're done with KD in Houston right now. But
is he actually injured? I imagine he's actually injured.
Yeah, they said
I picked Houston to win because I thought he was going to play. Yeah, I didn't think you would get a 27 game out of Luke Kennard. I didn't think you would get Bronny, outscoring the Houston bench. Like, I didn't. Granted, he only had 5 points, but I didn't think those would be the scenarios.
But that's the problem, right?
3-1.
But that's the problem because if I was in the Houston locker room, or Ime Udoka, or someone that talks to the team regularly, I could probably say something like, "Is Luke Kennard going to score 27 again? Can Rui keep playing as well as he's playing? Can Marcus Smart continue to hit shots? He's going to do the defensive stuff, the loose ball stuff, but can he hit shots consistently?
He got the original steal down 6.
Yeah. Can Ayton, be consistent? Like, these are the questions that I would ask in that locker room. The problem is that you're not down 3-1 because you were down 2-1 and lost a pivotal game. You were down 3-0. So, yeah. So what I mean? So now, on top of being an uphill climb, there's no room for error now.
There's 2 games in LA no matter what.
Right, and there's no room for error. You were talking about Denver and Minnesota. Like, you got to play it one game at a time. So the other night, you got what you needed. It was the first time all series that you looked like you were out hustling LA. So maybe old man got a little tired. Maybe the Lakers have just been playing out of their mind,
Or
And
maybe he just was like, "All right,
let's go back home.
I'm gonna give it 100% for 45% of this game. But if it doesn't look like we can pull away, let's go ahead and just get healthy, take this break, get back to LA because they had a pretty decent break. Because if my memory serves correctly, Game 4 was Saturday, right?
I want to say it was.
I don't think I was
I want to
watching
say it was
TV on
Sunday.
Was it Sunday?
I want to say it. Let me
Because
go
today's
look.
Tuesday.
I want to say it was Sunday. Let me look real quick.
All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was Sunday.
It was Sunday. So Sunday middle evening. But it was a second.
It was the
game,
late
right?
game. It was the late game.
What is time to start?
I think it was 9:30 maybe.
9:30. So we got 8:30 Central Time. Sunday.
Yep, and then they play tomorrow night.
You check out basically midway
at 9:00 Eastern.
You wrap it up. So now you're playing that game 3 days later. LeBron's probably in a hyperbaric chamber with the whole body suit massaging his arms like Frankenstein. And then he's going to come out. He's going to get the home crowd. Maybe you can shoot Austin Reeves up enough to where he can play with that oblique.
Well, there's rumors that he might come back.
It's always rumors because you have to play buy games with the Rockets.
But see, but is that one of those things?
Well, we know for sure that KD's not coming back.
Well, but is it one of those things where Austin Reeves coming back can hurt you? Like the same way, even if it's just one game, the same way that Embiid hurt, when he came back.
No, because Embiid played like 38 minutes. And you think that so Embiid had a surgery that I've never had appendectomy. I imagine that any kind of invasive surgery like that, where something's being removed, you're being scarred up, is probably pretty detrimental. But they're you know what? You probably can play through that if we can keep you hydrated, keep you stretched out, keep you maybe even shot up. If Austin Reeves is like, yo, I got a strain, it's going to be moments where, as a coach and a staff, you're going to see early, he can't make this closeout. Or he can't make this spin back to this hand, or he can't make this crossover dribble to the point where, I think you could pull him early and be fine with him not playing the extra minutes because everybody else has played and you were up 3-0 and now you're currently up 3-1. Whereas Embiid, it was like, he's got to play because we can't go down 3-1, and you kept out there, and then Tatum hit the dagger 3 to put him up 6. And it was like, God damn, we spent all of his energy trying to get him to win this game. And then he hits the dagger 3 to put us up. I think it was 116, 110. And then the game ended up, lose. But like I said, Pritchard was killing him on the other side. So if Austin Reeves does try to play, and you realize after 9 or 12 minutes of him playing that it's not going to work, sit him back down and go back to what you were doing. They got you to 3-1 lead in the first place.
You know what I love? I love honesty. There's not much better than an honest person.
Listening.
And every time people come out here talking about how James Harden is better than Dwayne Wade, he has a playoff game or two that shows you that he knows that he's not better than Dwayne Wade. So, he just had his 44th, that's full playoff game where he's had more turnovers than made shots. 44.
Hold on. Stop talking to me. Stop for 1 second. Hold on. I know you talk about his 2 for 10 games a lot. You talk about the 29 missed threes that Houston had that one series. You said he has 44 games where he has more total games or playoff games? Not
playoff games.
He has 44 playoff games with more turnovers than many baskets?
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
I know. But anyway, as we do that,
that's
so like Toronto, right? I don't know if Toronto can win in Cleveland. If they can, they might win this series. I think that they found something because what's the word I'm looking for? Connor Murray Boyles came off the bench and he's been providing the physical minutes, tough guy stuff. Cleveland decided that they were going to attack in the first two games with Jared Allen. Because, Jared Allen can't get his own shot. He's reliant on these guards and all this kind of stuff like that. They put Jakob Poeltl on Evan Mobley. So that took that pick and roll away. So Jared Allen is just out there getting cardio at this point. So where are you in this series?
I remember watching game 4. I forgot where I was, but I had the game on. I was watching it. And I was thinking to myself, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, in my mind, in my non-analytic basketball, brain, I felt like there were similarities to Cat.
Yes, 44 playoff games.
So Cat and Rudy, that's chaos. Cat and Rudy Gobert. I just felt as if you can make that work if you just kind of simplify their role. Rudy Gobert, I'm drawing a blank. Jared Allen. Defend on the pick and roll, defend at the rim. Mobley, Cat, try to get a pick and roll switch with a mismatch. You go to work, get points, and then in the meantime, get the ball to these other two ball handlers and shooters, Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley Jr., Donovan Mitchell, James Harden. Like, I just feel like it could work a lot more seamlessly than they're making it seem. And I think they're fighting against this idea, like, I got to score 22 plus points. It's like, you both can go. I think Jared Allen can go probably 10 and 16. I think Mobley can go probably 16 and 10 easily. Just size and length, and let these guys who are these scorers carry that workload. And I think it's like a battle, and hence why I think Minnesota got rid of Cat, because there's no reason why Jared Allen, the guy with that kind of energy, can't just stay on the floor and just defend the rim. But Mobley just always look like he's just moping around because he's not getting the ball to score. I think that's the coaching piece, and that's part of the reason why I believe James Harden's had limited success in the playoffs, because sometimes the coach can draw up something, but when you're on the floor, you have to see it differently. I think the same thing with Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell believes wholeheartedly in his skill set, but I'm not sure if his presence on the court creates an environment where other guys are getting opportunities to elevate their game.
6 for 24 the other night.
Because he's going to put up 24 shots.
And
I think a guy like...
he ain't going to grab 15 rebounds like Kobe did.
Saying. We'll use Kobe. I think Kobe. I think Dwayne Wade. I think Tracy McGrady. I think Melo's still going to shoot, but Melo's going to get to the paint and get somebody in foul trouble. So Melo might go 11 for 24, but he's going to get 12 free throws and 2 guys in foul trouble. You know what I mean? So it's like he just does something different that really helps the game. I think Donovan Mitchell and James Harden both effectively, when they're on, impact the game, but when they're off, I think their lack of impact is the exact same. So there's no balance to it. Like, if Donovan Mitchell's not knocking down shots, he does nothing else for you as far as like game plan. Like, if he goes 6 for 24, he's not doing shit else. He's not going to get you 2.5 blocks. He's not going to get you 2 steals. He's not going to get you 12 rebounds. He's not going to come back with 11 assists. That just doesn't happen. And if James Harden's not scoring, he's not going to get you 12 rebounds and 11 assists either.
In one of these playoff games, James Harden had 11 made shots. You know how bad you have to be to have more turnovers than made shots if you made 11 shots? He had 15 turnovers in that game.
Because I don't think he's a natural playmaker.
I remember they were playing the Warriors back when he had Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
And he had 12 turnovers in the closeout game. But anyway, so this is where I thought Keon Ellis would help, but he's been injured. You know, you still got Dennis Schroeder. So, like, they might have an issue of trying to get too many people, too many minutes. And, you know, Jamal Shed, you know, I brought him up at the beginning of the series because Emmanuel Quickly, you know, hasn't been able to go. He's given them those quality minutes, but it's time to take that show on the road, and you might want to bring Jacoby Walters with you. I still think Cleveland wins the series. But, Mr. Logical, I had a scary-ass thought the other day.
Let's hear it.
Or last night, actually. I said, is my preseason prediction of Orlando making the Eastern Conference Finals going to happen? Because they would play the winner of this series between Toronto and Cleveland.
I think Orlando's confidence would be sky high once they close out Detroit. Granted, like I said, I picked Detroit.
Well, like I said,
I picked Detroit. I just feel at what Orlando did in game one, the fact that they're still able to do that games 2, 3, and 4 is evident that Detroit's in trouble.
So
we'll think about, okay, we'll go back real quick and I'll show. When Iverson stepped over Tyronn Lue in that NBA Finals, the most famous step over, and guys been doing it, getting flags and technicals ever since. The Lakers won a series 4-1. It was clear. It was like, yeah, that was a great game, but we are the better team. We're going to make these adjustments and we're going to win this series. And they won it 4-1. I thought Detroit would make that same kind of turn. I didn't think they'd be down 3-1 at any point after that because I felt like Orlando's shots were just guys getting both of their arms hit and still getting the layup in. And when that didn't happen, I was like, okay, so they might be in real trouble.
Well, the good news for Detroit, bad news for us fans, is that Franz Wagner is questionable and they play tomorrow.
Questionable?
You know, right calf strain. So I don't think he's really questionable. Yeah, that's why I said bad news. I don't think he's really questionable.
Yeah.
Because remember, Aaron Gordon played a game with the bad calf, and then now he's back out
last
again.
time.
Yep.
Kevin Durant, Tyrese Halliburton. The list goes on and on for guys who are dealing with calf issues.
And then
that turned into 9 to 12 month Achilles repair, rehab. Yeah, so Franz has been a good year.
So something to keep an eye on, you know what I mean? But it sucks because theoretically, and you know, if Denver comes back and wins, and then if Detroit comes back and win, we're going to go look back at these in a couple of years or maybe even next year, and then we're going to go, damn injuries.
Nah, I think because we picked chalk. Like most of us picked 1 to beat 8, 3 to beat 6 in each side of the bracket. I think the injuries will come if there was a guy who, like
if SGA got hurt and Phoenix would have won that series.
If SGA got hurt, or if even right now with the Lakers and Houston, the Lakers would play
OKC.
If OKC loses Chet or Hardenstein, or like maybe like a Lou Dort, because not even SGA, because if you lose your star, that's
Goes
But if
without
you lose,
saying. Yeah.
yeah, if you lose Lou Dort or Chet or both of them, and the Lakers somehow, get to the Houston series, get to OKC, and then they go on the Western Conference Finals, I think the injury conversation will come up then. But if teams that are ranked ahead, your 3 seed and your 1 seed just kind of, squeeze out victories, I don't think anyone's going to look and say, oh man, if Orlando didn't have an injured Franz Wagner, they would have won that series. Because the expectation would be
2-5 will say it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And that Jason Terry MVP conversation that you'll be able to kind of rest your hat on as an authentic conversation. Like, hey, if this doesn't happen, this is the butterfly effect of that.
And then we'll see when J-Dub can get back, for that matter. We'll see when Luka can get back. So hopefully both of them, are able to.
Imagine like this grad, and I wish on. Let's say Lou Dort gets suspended.
Okay.
It's 1-1. He does some tricky shit. He trips Luka. Luka comes back for game 2.
Okay.
He trips Luka. They give him a flagrant 2 because, all right, dog, you're out here Draymonding. And then because of that flagrant 2, they review it and say it was deliberate. His history says, and they suspend it for game 3. And now the Lakers go up 2-1. With the Luka and Austin Reeves back after being arrested, I think that will be the conversation that people talk about with like Draymond and LeBron.
I don't even like you putting that in the universe.
It's realistic. The dude can't.
I don't even like it. I don't like it.
Remember how Draymond kept kicking dudes in the nuts and they didn't say anything, or how Chris Paul kept punching dudes in the nuts and nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden you back knuckle the dude in his nesticles. And all of a sudden, now you one less championship away.
Superstar calls. But ladies and gentlemen, we will be back.
She didn't feel it.
We will be back on Friday. Adam Silver has proposed an anti-tanking proposal, and Mr. Logical still upset. He's still upset about it. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And then, of course, we'll have more follow-up to the playoff action coming at us. He is the one and only, world-famous, world-renowned, cool, calm, and collected. He was born in Texas, raised in Virginia, representing everything New Jerusalem, I thought, until he showed up with this Knicks hat.
Listen, we all out here. This is a very small area. A lot of people. Very tiny.
He is.
It's like the northeast corner of Texas. We got 11 million people in it. Like it's very, very on top of each other. We love it.
He is Mr. Logical. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, it's your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. It's almost time for Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. And I'm telling you, Ronda better go right. She better go left. She better go down. But she better not come up.
Off the rip, just like an Entourage.
She better not come up. I'm telling you that.
Fight like she was fighting Turtle.
I am 2-5. This is Sports Reports as Ordered. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in Hand. Strawberry Terror if you can. Check out Say Less, Say More. Everywhere you get your podcasts. We love you. Bang, bang. And we are out.
Hey! Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up.